distinguished Nigerians around the world. The Diaspora Perspective is here to share the views of Nigerians in the diaspora on burning issues.
From the street of New York, the royal cities of London, and the bustling cities of Europe, Voice of the People Television brings to you a roundtable and collage of interesting views from Nigerians in diaspora.
Join the host of the show and some Nigerians in diaspora, Dr. Damages, the flagship, Show, and KJ, as they discuss the experiences, challenges, and triumphs of Nigerians living abroad.
Discussing and analyzing everything from politics, culture, policies, career success, and how Nigerians are staying connected to their roots. Showing every Saturday by 2 p.m. West African Time and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
The Diaspora Perspective, giving a voice to Nigerians abroad.
Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome to another interesting edition of the Diaspora Perspective Show, home and abroad on Voice of the People Television, that's VOP. Now, today is the 14th day of December 2024, and I am your host, Chukwuma Okoro. I'll take you through this show in the next 2 hours. Now, before we get into the major topics of discussion, we encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our page. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People Television, and on other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. You can also visit our website for other interesting stories. We are at www.vop.ng. You can also be part of this conversation by calling in or sending WhatsApp messages to the number showing on your screen. Now, the number is 0904-473-2605. I'll take that number again so that I can capture it. 0904-473-2605. Today, we'll be looking at two major topics, and the first one is regional economic development. Southeast holds $1 billion economic investment summit. Away from that, we'll also look at Ghana elections impact. Ghana, not Nigeria, according to presidential spokesperson Daniel Bwala. I'm being joined virtually by Dr. Damages, to make sense of these two topics and others that we'll talk about. Dr. Damages is a satirist, a writer, journalist, and adjunct professor at the School of Visual Arts in New York City, United States of America. I'm also joined by Flagship. Flagship is a clinical research operations lead and business entrepreneur based in Atlanta, Georgia, also in United States of America. I also have KJ. KJ is a media production expert. He's also involved in training and joins from Maryland, United States of America. I also have Show. Show is an IT expert with interest in international politics and development and joins from the United Kingdom. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the show. Now, before we get into the major topics of discussion, let's also look at other interesting stories, that are trending in the politics. Now, we understand there's a breaking story, and it says that Finland freezes Simon Ekpa'S assets, places him in the toughest prison. Oh well, the Finnish authorities have frozen the assets of Simon Ekpa, the self-proclaimed Biafran agitator. We also understand that Ekpa is facing allegations of terrorism-related activities and has been detained for several weeks. Now, reports have it that the Finnish government has also frozen the assets of companies associated with Ekpa and 4 of his accomplices who are also in remand. According to the local newspaper report, Gile, which confirmed the development, further, they stated that Ekpa is being held in Klemakowski prison, which is reputed to be one of the world's toughest prisons. Now, it is likely that Ekpa may spend the Christmas and New Year holidays in detention, given the stance already taken by the Finnish authorities. Away from that, we also understand that Time magazine has named Donald Trump, U.S. President-elect, as Man of the Year for the second time. Now, in a stunning development, Time magazine has named Donald Trump as its Person of the Year for the second time. He previously won the honor after winning the presidential election in 2016. Now, Time editor-in-chief Sam Jacobs credited Trump with marshalling a comeback of historic proportions and driving a once-in-a-generation political realignment that reshaped the American presidency and alter the U.S.'s role in world history. Now, continuing, Jacob said that Trump has reshaped the American electorate, activating young male voters who propelled him to a decisive victory that saw him win the popular vote for the first time and turn every swing state red, the outlet said. Now, Trump complained in 2025 when he was not chosen for the magazine cover during his first run for office, when the award went to former German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Now, back home, Vice President Kashim has criticized UK Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch for Kemi's comments on Nigeria. Now, reactions have trailed Vice President Kashim Shettima's comments on Kemi Badenoch, the newly elected leader of UK's Conservative Party. Shettima accused Badenoch of disparaging Nigeria, her country of origin, despite her rise to prominence. He defended Nigeria, calling it the greatest black nation, and emphasized its global significance, stating that by 2050, Nigeria will be the third most populous nation. Now, many Nigerians have also reacted and are critical of Shettima's defense, questioning the line between patriotism and telling the truth to self. Away from that, a high court in Oyo State and boycotts in Oyo and Abuja have barred Delo Farotimi, the detained activist, from further publishing, selling, circulating, advertising, or distributing the hard or soft copy of his book, Nigeria and its criminal justice system. A similar order was issued by an Oyo State High Court, which also granted an interim order restraining Farotimi or any person acting through him from further printing the controversial book. Now, the activist is currently embroiled in a legal battle over the controversial book. Away from that, the Legal Practitioners Dependence Committee has received a petition from Afe Babalola, the man in the eye of the storm. And the petition seeks to delist Delo Farotimi from Legal Practitioners Council to stop him from practicing law in Nigeria. Gentlemen, these are the trending topics in Nigeria, and I would like you to chime in on any of these topics. By the way, let me welcome you once again into the show. I have Dr. Damages, I have Flagship, I have KJ, and I have the show. Gentlemen, once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
All right. Dr. Damages, let me kick off with you. What's your reaction on any of these trending topics? Can we have your quick takes, please?
Thank you so much, Puma, for having us. And I want to say that I wasn't surprised with the steps taken by Finland in terms of freezing assets. If you are arrested for anything to do with the kind of charges Simon is facing, is the next natural thing for the government of that country to do, which also might explain why the Biafrans at this point, they are dealing with the issue of what do we do with the finances and who controls what. Because if Simon was signatory to the accounts, that means those accounts are not available. That may be why they are at the point of dealing with who wants to open a new account for them and things like that. So that's not a surprise. And it's also not a surprise that they placed him in the kind of prison they are reporting that they placed him in, because the charges are serious, and that's why he wasn't granted bail, which explains everything. Now, on the
Dr. Damages, sorry to cut it. Does it look like the Finnish government is trying to more like closing? Can I actually use the word closing because he's already in detention? Is it that they are trying to restrict his activities further? Does it look like that?
Prison will be running their account and other things, that wouldn't happen naturally. So I think it's all part of what happens to anybody if you are facing a very serious charge.
Okay, but do you relate with the fact that there's been some kind of peace, if I may use that word, some kind of peace in the Southeast since Simon Ekpa was arrested and detained? Is there a possibility that we create a nexus between his arrest and detention and the kind of peace that we have in the Southeast now? Or is it as a result of the Yuletide that is approaching? Is there a possibility that...
Yeah, I've been trying to gauge what's going on there. I'm not there. I've not come home since the arrest, but I've been gauging. A lot of people are saying that it may be part of it. That probably I don't know. I don't know. It may also be the festive season because people are coming from all over the world, coming home to the southeast. So it could be any of those things. I don't know. I did interview Chidi Odenkalo, and I wanted to ask him because he goes home more frequently than I do. If he knows whether there is kind of peace or a kind of more like a change in the atmosphere as a result of that. He too didn't give me a concrete answer, but we will find out.
Certainly we'll find out because a lot is going on. You also recall that IPOB has said that with the ESN, they guaranteed peace. For people, for returnees, people who are coming home, for the Yuletide. So it's difficult for us, like you say, to place it appropriately, whether it is because of his arrest, whether it is because of the Yuletide, or whether it's because of the IPOB has said, look, we are taking charge. Anyway, let's move on. We'll find out.
Now, one last thing. You asked, let me just say something about Trump. It's not a surprise that he became the man of the year. What he accomplished was unthinkable, for people who follow international politics. The comeback. There's no doubt about that. But also, you have to also know that different people have all been men of the year or women of the year. So it doesn't mean that he's a wonderful fellow. So.
Okay, Dr. Damages, I understand. The issue of man of the year is that I wanted us to look more like talk about the Trump presidency, like have the power of foresight, to predict him. A lot of things, are already going on about the mass deportation, and he's already having a running battle with the mayor of Chicago, who's actually against the mass deportation. But the issue of man of the year, I understand, like Time Magazine, they have a way of choosing their man of the year, and it has to do with the man who influenced news the most, either for good or bad, for that period under review. Like in 1991, it was Saddam Hussein that was Time Man of the Year. He didn't win it because he was a very good man, but it's because he had influenced news the most within that period. I sought to make that clarification so that it doesn't look as if Trump won Man of the Year because he's a good man or because he won election. Probably because he was able to influence news within the period under review.
Thank you. That's exactly what is important for people to know because people might assume that it meant something more than that.
All right. Thanks very much, Damages. Now, KJ, can we have your quick text, please? Quick text.
Okay. Thank you so much. You see, I will disagree with Maga, to a large extent here, and with due respect. You see, the truth remains. What Trump has been able to achieve is something that has not been heard of before. I mean, it's a very great comeback. Came back in all ramification, beating the ruling party, both in number and in terms of demography. So I think what he has done, is worth commendation. But I'm not going to say because of that he's become the darling of the news media. What they are simply doing is they are weighing their options. Each media house right now, internationally existing in the US, they are all trying to weigh their options. If you notice before now, when they take pictures of Trump, they make him look more orange than a normal human being. But if you see the Times Magazine picture, speaking from a picture expert, you could see the way they were able to give him a strong showing. The angle of the camera was low. So that gives him a more than live, appearance so that you can appreciate, what the man has accomplished. So speaking from that angle, everyone who is anybody and who is a good politician, seeing what the man has been able to do, we want to also find a way to align what is happening because that is majority of Americans speaking. That this is
sorry, KJ. At this moment, are you able to tell us in specific what Trump has done? Like when you say Trump 2.0, that's the second coming, which is actually yet to kick off. Is there anything he has done that is quite spectacular apart from the comeback that he made?
Okay. We don't need to speculate what Trump will do or has done. He has been a president before. He's not coming for the first time. His policies are out there for anybody to look at if you want to. There are good, there are bad, there are ugly. Everybody who is a leader, you cannot totally agree with everybody's policy, from 0 to 100. So there are things he will do that you may not like. There are things he will do that you like. So I'm not going to go into that. And Trump presidency, anybody who lives in America will have told you what they were able to achieve at the time Trump was president. So that is not something we should speculate. But what he's going to do right now is already there also. And whether you like some of them or you don't like it, it's just a question of time. He has been a president before. So some of the speculation that the media is, carrying about him is purely speculations until we see what he's able to do. On the issue of Simon Ekpa, I was just, chatting with somebody this morning saying, I'm waiting to see a proper media reporting from Finland before I can take a stand. Why be that? Because, there are certain things that have been reported in Nigerian media that wasn't necessarily what was going on in Finland. And so sometimes I want to be able to see a national news in Finland carrying those things. Or be it as it may, if truly what they accuse him of is a serious charge, nobody who will be charged that way and will be allowed to be roaming around the street. So the group may be playing it down, or maybe may not be, playing it down, making it look as if it is not a serious case. But here's my argument about it. If he was charged as said, that he was claiming to be a prime minister, and he's not, when they held their so-called referendum and the declaration of Biafra, since they are also part of the movement and know what he's been charged for, they wouldn't have used the title our prime minister. But throughout the 7 days of their meeting, they kept referring to him as a prime minister elect or prime minister selected or designated, whatever the title was, but they were using it and calling his full titles. It then means that if that was what he was being investigated for, the Biafra government in exile has equally given the government an ample evidence to be able to prosecute him properly. So I think there are still some things missing in the communication or the charges or what is being held for. And I want to say categorically, because Nigerian government like to claim hold to successes outside of Nigeria. Nigerian government have not played any role in the arrest of Simon Ekpa. So let nobody begin to deceive themselves, especially the chief of army staff who keeps saying we did nothing. The people just decided to step down and do what they can to help your country. So let's not make it look as if the Nigerian government was able to force the Finnish authority to arrest Simon Ekpa. It is not the same country where you are running, where you can get up and say, arrest that man, arrest this man, and that is it. It doesn't happen that way in those countries. And I want to put that on record.
All right, KJ, it would be nice to also state clearly that the news was not broken. The news wasn't put out by a Nigerian newspaper. It was by a Finnish newspaper, YLE. I don't know how to pronounce it. YLE is the name of that local newspaper. Now, that said, let's bring in Sho into this conversation now. Sho, please, can we have your quick takes on any of those 4 topics that we talked about that are trending right now?
Yes, thank you, Chukwuma. Good afternoon once again, and good afternoon to your audience across the globe. So I'll start with the Donald Trump Man of the Year award. Like, many of you have stated, the award is not an endorsement, it's not a honor, it's just recognition of somebody who's, made a global impact. So some of the winners in the past, and I'm not in any way comparing Trump to them, but, in 1938, you had Hitler won the award. In 1939, you had Stalin, and Stalin won it again in 1946 or 47. You've had, George W. Bush, despite all the atrocities in the Middle East, he was awarded Man of the Year. You had recently Rudy Giuliani has won it. So Putin won it in 2007. So you've had all sort of people win the award. So it's not necessarily an endorsement, but it's a recognition of somebody who's done something, unimaginable. Could be good, could be bad. And in terms of Trump's policies, like KJ said, it's not an unknown quantity. We're familiar with what he's done in the past, and we can only hope that, his presidency will bring stability and peace across the world, being that America is a country that's quite powerful and respected across the globe. So that is that on Trump. Shetima and Kemi Badenoch. Just for clarity, I live in the UK, and Kemi Badenoch has made many attempts to say there is no bad in her name. So she said her name is Kemi Badenoch, not Badenoch. I think it's of Scottish origin. So going forward, please respect our I can't say our dear daughter because I don't think she's our dear daughter, but she wants to be addressed as Kemi Badenoch. It's quite interesting to see Shettima say what he said, that we are proud of her. This is somebody who disassociates herself from Nigeria at every opportunity. She doesn't need to be prompted. You can say, good morning, Miss Kemi Badenoch or Mrs. Badenoch, and she'll just tell you, I'm not Nigerian, So for the vice president to be proud of her, I think I need to up my game and bash Nigeria at every opportunity. Maybe finally the vice president will recognize me and be proud of me, because anybody would want to be, recognized by the vice president of their country. Kemi Badenoch is doing what any politician would do. Politicians lie. It's part of what they do. They might have fancy names for it, but they lie. That's one of the major qualities of a politician. They would use and dump you. So if you go and listen to Kemi Badenoch's TED Talk, just go on YouTube and type Kemi Badenoch TED Talk. I think she did it 2011 or thereabout. You'll be surprised it's the same Kemi Badenoch that you're listening to today. She was so proud to be black. She was so proud to be Nigerian, sounded very proud. You would watch that and you would be so happy. In fact, her dad and myself attended same school, of course, many years apart. And in the secondary school group chat for the whole alumni, that's from 1918 to yesterday, everybody who's interested is in that group. You'd see a lot of people who belong to her dad's set. In the past, they were not proud of what she was doing. They were very proud of her when she started, but lately you're seeing them backtrack based on the way she talks about Nigeria. But Kemi is doing what is good for Kemi. She wrote a letter to our constituents in, I think it's in Dulwich, where you have a lot of black people, around 2010 when she was first running for office. And if you read that letter she wrote to them, it's not the same Kemi you see today. So at that point, 2010, 2011, Kemi needed to identify as a Nigerian because it was useful. It was relevant to what she was trying to achieve at the time. But you can understand, and I'm not saying agree, but you can understand where Kemi is today, what she's trying to achieve. She cannot be seen to be saying, I'm Nigerian, I'm pro-black, I'm this and that, especially when there's a movement in the UK where they're trying to push out immigrants and saying, the immigrants are coming to replace us. Now, the British people don't care if you're from Syria, if you're from Ghana, Nigeria, we're all immigrants. So there's that already. There's that fear and apprehension among the Caucasians thinking the great replacement is about to take place. So Kemi cannot afford to be seen coddling Nigeria and saying, I'm Nigeria, I'm pro this, I'm pro that. Everything Kemi stood for, she has to stand against in public. Otherwise, she will not get the vote of their people. I've already predicted if there was an election tomorrow, I think the Labour Party will win by a small margin, but the Conservative will be the biggest losers, and the Reform Party led by Nigel Farage will be the biggest beneficiary of Conservative loss, because you see a lot of Conservative voters who are saying that they can't just stand behind a black woman. Number one, she's a female. Number two, she's black. And they're saying they're not interested in that. They would rather go and vote for Reform, which is like the furthest right of the Conservative Party. That's my prediction. So in terms of Kemi, Kemi once stood at the TED Talk. If you listen to it, she was talking about how she wanted to apply for Oxbridge. Oxbridge is what they call Oxford University and Cambridge. They're the two, most prestigious universities in the UK, so they call them Oxbridge. When she was in school, she wanted to apply, and she went to her teacher with another Chinese friend who was a student at the time, and the teacher told them innocently, it's not for people themselves, don't bother. And Kemi, she spoke about it in that TED Talk in 2011, and she was disappointed, she was discouraged. So she could see the prejudice against black or, ethnic minority in the UK. But years later, Kemi stood at the parliament and she was speaking against another female parliamentarian. I think her name, what's her name now? Dawn Butler, the Labour MP, who was saying that the curriculum in the UK needs to change because the way they teach history, there's prejudice and all of that. And Kemi said it doesn't exist. The same Kemi who was saying how she was discouraged from going to or applying for Oxbridge. So politicians will lie. Kemi is doing what is best for Kemi, and Shettima and the rest of them need to do what is best for Nigeria. Like I was telling a few friends yesterday, failure is an orphan. Success has many fathers. If Nigeria was a country that many people are proud of, you wouldn't need to tell Kemi twice to identify. Even if, it's not the best thing to do for a political career, she wouldn't be as disparaging of Nigeria. So that is that. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is Dele Farutemi's book. The book now, I think every effort of Area Febabalola and his partners, I think is just making Dele more popular. Yes, there's a price to pay for it. Dele is being incarcerated right now and the rest of it. You can see that the powers that be are against him. They're trying to overwhelm him. I mean, there are lawsuits in Ibadan, lawsuits in Port Harcourt, in Abuja, in Lagos. That's what they want to do. But what we're asking is, let the man go defend himself. There's no point to lock him up indefinitely. Give him the chance to to defend. He said it. Don't beg for me. Don't raise any placard. No hashtag. Just tell them to let me defend myself in court. And that's what I would plead that they let him do. Not so that they don't even prove or almost like they're acting out everything he accused them of in the book. That's the way it looks right now. And if you go on Amazon UK, for instance, when Dele was arrested, the day was arrested, I ordered the book that same day on Amazon, and it had only 2 reviews. 2. Now it has 100 reviews. UK Amazon, 5-star review. 100 people have reviewed the book, and more people are buying it. Now they want to stop the publication. Everything you're doing is going to exacerbate the problem you think you have. More people, I mean, if you go on Amazon and type Dele Farutemi books, there's like 4 or 5 books that have been written since his arrest, and people are cashing in on that. 4 or 5 books, at least Amazon UK, you can see, biography of Dele Farutemi published on the 8th of December, published on the 6th of December. There's like 5 or different books, and people are cashing in on this thing. So the more they talk about it, if they go about it in this way, they are just giving Dele publicity, and I think that's exactly what he wants. But I just hope that whatever happens, Dele does not lose his life and pay the ultimate price, because with Nigerians, we're quite good at appreciating people when they're no longer with us. I was telling a few friends yesterday that if you listen to Nigerians talk about Gani Fawehinmi today, you would think majority of Nigerians loved Gani Fawehinmi when he was alive. A lot of people didn't like him. They think he was too radical. He contested for presidency. How many votes did he have? But the minute Gani became late, he became a national hero. Everybody loves Gani Fawehinmi. Same with Fela Nicola Pokuti.
Okay.
Sorry, in 2 seconds, our parents told us not to listen to Fela growing up. They called him Mamugbo, smokes weed. But now everybody's talking about Fela. He was a prophet. He was before his time and the rest of it. Dele Giwa was similar. As journalists, you would know that. He wasn't popular amongst a lot of people, but the minute he was, unalived, he became a national hero. So I hope that Dele Farutemi gets his flowers while he's alive. Thank you.
All right, quite very interesting show. I want to stay with you on the issue of about Kemi's name, how the Badenoch is pronounced. Very well noted. How it will sound. Now, I want to stay with you on the fact of what Kemi did. At what point, should we look at the message away from the messenger? What Kemi said, is it something that should actually bother the government instead of saying, look, you don't denigrate your country? What did Kemi say? What she said, is it out of reality? Did she say anything wrong? That Nigerian leaders were mismanaging funds? Because that's actually what stoked this controversy. So at what point should we be looking at the message or the messenger?
At all times. At all times. I don't think Kemi has said anything that is wrong. Okay. Like I said, Kemi is doing what is best for Kemi. I think she's told the truth, like most of us would say. I think what really bothered the Nigerian government is the fact that it's coming from a very popular figure. Think about it. If there was an election tomorrow and Kemi, by any chance, if the Conservative wins, Kemi becomes the Prime Minister of the UK. That's one of the most powerful countries in the world, as small as it is. It's a powerful country. So for the leader of the opposition to be saying that you guys are corrupt, you steal money, which David Cameron said a few years ago that they are fantastically corrupt. So they don't want that sort of attention. But like I said, people like Shetima and the rest of them need to do what is right by Nigerians, fix the country, and Kemi will have nothing to. I don't think Kemi has said anything that all of us don't know. They just don't want it from somebody as powerful as Kemi Badenoch. And I think they'll be careful in going after Kemi, because there's a lot of things Kemi will be privy to that you and I might not be privy to, in terms of all the assets people might have in the UK, all the money stored here and there. So I think they better be careful. But no, actually, I wish they won't be careful, so that, everything can become public and benefit.
All right, thanks very much. Sure. Now, Flagship, come into the conversation right away. Let's have your quick takes so that we can run into the major topics of discussion.
Chukuma, for having me, and good morning from Georgia to all your listeners. Real quick, Trump being nominated the Man of the Year by Time Magazine, I think he deserves it. Trump was a man that had all the odds against him. You asked a minute ago what really makes him stand out this time to be nominated. Trump had all the odds against him. While he was president, they tried to impeach him several times. After he became president, they went after him with everything that they've got. And he seemed to surmount all of them and came out stronger on the other side. But prior to the election, and even during the election, you saw the FBI raids, you saw everything, the lawsuits, and all of that. Trump surmounted all of them, and democracies seemed to embrace him in spite of how bad they painted him. And he won, and not just winning by slight margins, but a huge, huge landslide. So I think that deserves to be recognized. Globally, all eyes were on Trump and the US election, and he came out stronger and better. With reference to his policies, I don't think that he's going to do everything he said he would do. So nobody should be scared or worried about Trump's policies on immigration and the rest. Finance and economic, yeah, I think he will stand strong on those. Yesterday, Friday, he rang the bell at Wall Street. And after that, he was interviewed. And briefly, they asked him, so with reference to immigration, are you still going to go by what you said? And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. We don't separate families. I'm not the one who's going to separate families. I don't think Americans would like the picture if the media carries their camera and put it on families when mom and dad is being sent back to their countries. It would look bad on us. So I'm willing to work with Democrats on a way to allow those that are brought here to remain. So you see, he's beginning to make changes. And like Sho was saying, that's what politicians do. When they're trying to get into office, they will tell you everything you want to hear to get your vote. And when they get there, they do what they want to do. So that's that about Trump. I think he deserves it. And congrats to him on that one. Okay. Secondly, with reference to Dele, I think that the state of Nigeria today, we are beginning to see how rotten it has become. And Dele's book is just one of many. And he was bold enough to release that and let us know about it. I've read the book, and I just could not help but shake my head on so many of the allegations that Dele talked about in his book. And the Nigerian government is trying to suppress the distribution of the book and publishing of the book. I think it's too late to do that, because even non-Nigerians, I have some friends here who are Americans that saw the news, and they talked to me about it. They want to read the book. I actually lent mine to a friend who's reading it right now as we speak. And also, there are reading parties that are going on online as we speak today. So whatever the Nigerian government tries to do to stop this, it is too late. The truth is, Nigeria is decaying, and it just did not start 10 years ago, not 20 years ago. It's been going on. And someone just had to take the bold step to let us know what is going on in the country and hopefully be able to salvage what is remaining. And lastly, I hope that some way, somehow, Lady Justice would be able to surmount corruption and give Dele justice in this case. Good luck to him and more strength, that our prayers go with him too.
All right, thanks very much, gentlemen. Thanks very much for very profound thoughts on these trending issues. Now, let's get into the major topic of discussion. Southeast holds $1 billion investment summit. Now, the $1 billion Southeast Investment Summit was held in Enugu during the week. It was an assemblage of technocrats, people like Mazi Samuhu Abonwa, who was the chairman of the occasion, was there. Igwe Nnemeka Achebe. We also used the opportunity of the summit to outline key strategies for restoring the Southeast region to its historic status as one of the fastest growing economic hubs globally. Now, among those strategies is the need for businesses in the region to build partnerships with national and international institutions and development partners, increase access to capital, innovative technology, expanded markets, and greater business opportunities. He also spoke of the need for regional economic integration, advocating for collaboration among businesses in the Southeast with their neighboring zones to boost economic synergy. He further called for the increased investment from national agencies like the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN, and the National Automotive Design and Development Council to strengthen their presence in the region. The Executive Secretary of the Southeast Business and Investment Summits Group, Ifedi Okwenna, expressed optimism about the summit's impact, disclosing that one of the expected outcomes is the creation of a special purpose vehicle to drive business promotion and investment across all sectors in the Southeast. Expert and technical presentation, including that from the Director General of the World Trade Organization, WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and several others were delivered during the business session. Gentlemen, the Southeast Investment Summit, targeting $1 billion, was held during the weekend. Now, let's look at the video of that event that was held between the 11th to the 13th of December 2024 before we get into the discussions.
Greater potentials, higher economic growth, faster development. Look forward to these businesses working together for economic integration within our zone and with our neighbors, our neighboring zones like the South and the Middle Belt and so on. It is equally important as businesses to begin to build partnerships with both the national and international institutions and development partners, many of whom are represented here. This will give us more access to capital.
And they are trying to tinker with the possibilities of recreating the economic magic, the economic miracles of the Southeast before and during the First Republic. This is an economy that was designated as one of the fastest growing globally. Since after the war, how many years down the line, the Southeast seems to be lagging, behind in terms of economic activities, in terms of industrialization, in terms of infrastructure, to create a hub, despite the resilience, despite the creativity of the people. Now, let me come straight to you, Dr. Damages, without profiling you. You are a Nigerian, but you are of Southeast extraction. I would like you to, can you walk us through the history, if you can, that has shaped contemporary business environment in the Southeast for us to understand why the Southeast has clearly not been able to recreate that miracle. I mean, we look at the Southeast, we don't have very viable industries, we don't have presence, or we don't have an economic processing zone like EPZ, we don't have any economic hub around the Southeast. Can you help us understand the historical implications of what is playing out in the Southeast up until this moment?
Without sounding negative, I think this is a wonderful strategy and idea. And it's been on the table for such a long time that the Southeast should try to go back to the past. I'm talking about when we had regional government, when you had people like M.I. Obala, Akanibian, as people who were running the affairs of the Southeast. And that period, you referred to it, that was a period that every region, they were on their own in terms of their fate is in their hands. They were not waiting for the federal government to give them money to sustain themselves. They had to find a way to live and thrive. And it was done, and Southeast proved themselves that they could. What happened was after the war, a lot of things changed in the Southeast. There was this centralized system of governance. And of course, people became more interested in going towards the center because that was where the resources were moved to, and not to stay in their region and develop their region. Again, we don't have the kind of leaders we had in Akanibian and M.I. Obala now. I hope that the spirit of whatever they worship, the people who run the Southeast, will change and give them the mindset to know that no matter the complaint we have about Nigeria and what Nigeria is doing, that they have the opportunity, those leaders in the Southeast, to build the Southeast and turn it into an example for the rest of the country to emulate if they think that Nigeria is the one dragging them down. It's something that they can easily do, but they have to come together. I don't know if the people I'm looking at as governors of the Southeast, they are people that can provide that environment. I hope the business sector will, on their own, irrespective of the characters who are running the Southeast, push for this and actually implement it. And we know examples of countries like Germany and Spain, where you have regional governments actually on their own decide that they want to create that economic boom in their region, irrespective of what is going on at the national level. So the Southeast always had that opportunity. I don't know why they haven't been. I've attended a lot of World Igbo Congress conventions in America here, and at each convention, they talk about things like this, what should be done, and people present proposals, ideas. There's nothing they've not done in those conferences, and I've gone to more than 10 of them. The question is, are people going to take it from that draft stage to implementing it? And It always boils down to the people who run the Southeast.
All right, exactly. Boiling down to the people that run the Southeast, I want to ask you, how much responsibility should the people of the Southeast take, both the government and the business elite? How much responsibility should they take for what is happening in the Southeast? Look at a $1 billion investment summit. I've checked through, I've looked through. There was no government presence. None of the governors attended. None of the commissioners for trade and investment was there. Or I think the Trade and Investment Commission of Enugu State was there. But apart from that, there were no big wigs. We didn't see the Innocents of this world, the Ibetos of this world, the big Igbo business people. None of them was represented. It was filled with technocrats, Sam Ohuabunwa, former MD of Pfizer, people from SMED and people from back of industry. Is there a possibility that we could stop looking at the federal government and now focus attention on what the Southeast people should do for themselves?
The problem is the structure of the country. The people can come together. I'll give an example. There was a proposal to build a modern hospital in the Southeast, not just a hospital, a complex that we have medical schools, nursing school, and it was presented at the World Igbo Congress convention with governors and commissioners from the Southeast there, people in the Senate and House of Rep. And the year after, they came back and said, this is the problem we're having, that when they approached government and said, we want land, we want you to help us facilitate this to happen in Nigeria, that they all come back to them and try to either do something similar to what they are doing on their own, or try to say, what do you give to us so that we can do this? So they end up spoiling or stopping it from happening. And so it's difficult for people to just come into a territory like the Southeast, where you don't have land, you don't have the infrastructure, without the buying in of the governments in the Southeast to get these things done. So that's the challenge. You have to get the government involved, the people, even at the federal level. Because sometimes, I'll give you another example. People have tried to do things like gather books from abroad and ship to Nigeria, okay, for schools in the Southeast. And I've met some of these people, and they meet these government officials. All they need is for help in terms of dealing with clearing the goods when it gets to Nigeria. But nobody cares about that because it's not something they're interested in. But this is something that will benefit the schools that we have in the Southeast. So it's difficult to do things in Nigeria without the buying in of the government. And the people can push for it, people in Nigeria, but sometimes they are powerless. They have other things they're thinking about.
All right, thanks very much, Dr. Damages. Now, let me come to you, KJ. KJ, I want you to help us understand whether it is an attitudinal problem with the people of the Southeast, or does it have to do with some kind of exclusion through state policy that the Southeast remains underdeveloped? I mean, you look at other regions, like if you have to compare with the Southwest happens to be moving far ahead in terms of industrialization and creating economic hubs like Ogun State and Lagos. Is it a problem of attitude with the people of the Southeast, or does it have to do with state exclusion, some kind of conspiracy that the state willingly, carefully, conspires to exclude the Southeast from economic development?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chukuma. the two questions you asked is the same. Dr. Damages have done a lot of the Southeast be bedeviled by two things: state policy, and then the attitude of those governing the space in the Southeast. State policy in the sense that majority of the people who are in governance in the East are not the people's leaders. They were handpicked by their masters and forced down on the throat of the Ndigbo in the Southeast. And consequently, they do not care to further whatever the people's cause is, rather to continuously to please their masters. And a point in hand is the guy in Imo State, And so I don't want to even go into that because there's so much to discuss. But I want to say the other policy is because that the second question is the people who are in position, since they are not, they were not brought in there by the people's choice. And so they decide to dance to whatever the puppet master is saying. So I don't know why a governor sitting and the people come to do a meeting that has $1 billion. Even for America here, $1 billion is not a joke. So people are ready to invest $1 billion in your area. What other business will you have that day not to be in that meeting? To at least see that you can make sure that at least, if not for nothing, $100 million from that comes into your state. What is the more important thing you're going to do if you were there as a governor for the interest of your people? What will stop you from being in that meeting and meeting everybody who had come to that meeting to ask for ideas on how to implement this? Or even you say, look, I don't have the money, but I have land. I'll make land available for you guys. Whatever you want to do, let us know. Here is land. Is that not how people who are interested in development for their people behave? Because when that development comes, it's going to bring employment, it's going to bring a new lease of life, even into your community. The good thing about America is that you don't need to be in the city to enjoy whatever they see people in New York, like Dr. Rudolph enjoying. Those of us who live in rural area, we enjoy whatever is enjoying there. If you go to the rural area, you will see the McDonald's of this world, everything, whatever shop you call it, is the same thing you see there. It's the same thing you see in your own little communities.
Okay.
And so you don't need to move to New York. You can be in your community and still get the quality life that you want.
All right, exactly the point. KJ, let me stay with you. KJ, what do you think? Is there a possibility that you can understand and let us share with you the reason why the average Igbo man does not invest in the Southeast? Do you have a kind of an explanation for that?
Dr. Rudolph has always said that, and about our buttress, because you don't invest where there is no, you have to provide road, provide lights, provide everything. There's no infrastructure to hold your
Exactly the point I want to make. How much now, KJ, exactly the point. We are talking about infrastructure now. So how much responsibility should the governors of the Southeast take for not providing that infrastructure? And must the people of Southeast keep blaming the federal government for some form of exclusion? Where do we situate it? Where do we locate the problem now?
I once had a conversation with, I won't call the governor's name, but a ex-governor of River State. And I asked the same question, sir, why is it that you guys are not doing this? And he said to me, do you know how much it costs to do a 100-kilometer road in River State? He said the 100-kilometer road in River State, we construct 10 or even more in Sokoto or in Katsina, because you first of all have to deal with the quality of the land, the water, and everything. So when they are giving the same money for such construction, they are always just do maybe. Why those people can achieve 100 kilometers in Sokoto or in Kaduna, they can only achieve maybe 10 because of the quality of the soil and the terrain. However, that's not to say that a people who really want to develop their people will not do much more than that. Because the more your place is developed, for instance, let's go back to the summit. If we are a serious people, what the people I expected to do, them to do is, first and foremost, come and ask, how do we get development fast in the East? First and foremost, will you need an airport? Will you need an international airport that can carry cargo? Do you need a seaport that can bring in this? let us look at Ekpa'S development. I remember that my mom used to work in a farm development. In those days, they used to have very large farms, okay, in the east, where crops are grown, all kinds of crops are grown. People wake up in the morning, just like you wake up to go to the office. People wake up in the morning, go to those farms, deal with their own portion, and come back. There were offices there. There were houses there for people who don't want to go to the farms and come back. They have their offices there. So you can actually sleep in the farm, do your farm. On the weekend, you go back to your community. This was how the East was being developed. What about the plantations of the palm trees? Where are they right now? Can't we go back to those places? Can't we go back to those development? What about the cash crop that are growing in the East? Has anybody thought about making sure that those things come back the way they used to be? No. The question is, so what are you really doing? You are joining because you can get free money in Abuja and spend on your, the kind of life you want to give yourself. And so that's what you are concerned about. You're not concerned about the people.
Okay.
If you are concerned about developing the Southeast, there are certain things we'll be thinking about and putting in place. The governors won't be, accusing one another or trying to divide the Southeast into, small fragmentation so that you can continue to be in leadership position. No, you will come together. During the 19 northern states, as they used to call, develop, come together to make all kinds of development in the north. Was it a crime? No. Why can't we do the same thing? Because we all have different agenda for our different states. And, first and foremost, the personal agenda is much higher than the state one. Nobody cares, okay? And they come and get all kinds of stupid titles, like the last one in Abia State before this governor. If we are serious people, if you don't want to discuss commoners like Dr. Damages and the flagship, go and discuss your fellow governors. Go to OT. OT, how can we plan out this thing? You already have a blueprint that people are praising. How do we use your blueprint now and expand it in the East? Because we are people who are ready to work. Nobody in the East wants to beg. When I was growing up, I didn't ever see beggars, because if you're a young man, they say, if you don't have work, enter the forest. There will be something for you to go and get and go and sell, which was how people were living. Okay? Now, the forests have been mowed down for one reason or the other. You can't even go to the forest now because you don't know who is there waiting for you. Can't we go back to the drawing board? And those materials that were used, they are still strategies that are there. People who were there at that time are old men now. They can give you that strategy. Those people assembled, but the governors refuse to come or send their secretaries. But if they are going to share that $1 billion, they will be there before 6 a.m. before it starts. They will be there to wait to collect portion. But they've come with ideas, and nobody wants to come there and listen or even be part of it. It's shameful and unfortunate.
All right, thanks very much, KJ, for your very wonderful and incisive thoughts. Now, if you are just joining us, this is the Diaspora Perspective Show on Voice of the People Television, VOP. You can also be part of this conversation by calling in or sending WhatsApp messages to the number that is showing on your screen. The number is 0904-473-2605. I'll take that number again, 0904-473-2605. Now, let me come to you, Sho. So, permit me to profile you a bit. I understand you are Nigerian too, but you also come from the Southwest. Now, the Southwest seems to be making some kind of progress in creating economic centers. You have the Abara Industrial Estate in the whole of Ogun State that borders Lagos. There are large industrial estates there. And businesses are booming and going on. Can you help the people of the Southeast, the government of the Southeast, understand that, look, there is something that needs to be done, that's something that can be done, to recreate the miracle, of the early 1960s,
Okay, I'll make an attempt. While I don't speak for the whole of the Southwest, but it's clear to see what you've just described, that the Southwest, there's this synergy that you can, almost feel and touch amongst the governors, the elite in the Southwest, where they prefer a collective wealth as opposed to individual wealth. Of course, there are, individual billionaires in the Southwest, but I think you see more of them in the East, where you can talk of one person is worth God knows how many millions in dollars and the rest of it.
Okay, sure. Hello, sure. Yes. I would like for you to hold on to your line of thought. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, you continue. Please don't go away. Just stay with us.
Are you ready to connect with distinguished Nigerians around the world? The Diaspora Perspective is here to share the views of Nigerians in the diaspora on burning issues.
From the street of New York, the royal cities of London, and the bustling cities of Europe, Voice of the People Television brings to you a roundtable and collage of interesting views from Nigerians in diaspora.
Join the host of the show and some Nigerians in diaspora, Dr. Damages, the flagship, show, and KJ, as they discuss the experiences, challenges, and triumphs of Nigerians living abroad.
Discussing and analyzing everything from politics, culture, policies, career success, and how Nigerians are staying connected to their roots. Showing every Saturday by 2 p.m. West African Time and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
The Diaspora Perspective, giving a voice to Nigerians abroad. From the views on the street,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. And if you are just joining us, this is Voice of the People TV and the show is the Diaspora Perspective Show. You can also be part of this conversation by calling in or sending WhatsApp messages to the number showing on your screen. Now, the number is 0904-473-2605. All right, sure, let me bring you back into the conversation. I asked you a question and you were already answering, so please go ahead with your line of thought.
Before we went on break is that in the Southwest, you can see the synergy between the governor and the governors, the political leaders and the elite. They are more interested in investing in the Southwest. I know that nature, we won I think it's called the Life Lotto because we're close to the sea. So we've won that lottery just, out of sheer luck. But I think the people of the Southeast can do a lot more than they're doing. And it's good to see them have this sort of summit where they're saying, they want to raise $1 billion. I think in the between the late 50s and the mid 60s, it's reported that the Southeast was, the economy was one of the fastest growing in the world, and it was at about 9%, higher than Singapore, Taiwan, Bangladesh, and all these places. But you can't compare them today. The war happened, but since the war, like many of you have stated, it seems like the Southeasterners are almost afraid to invest in the Southeast, and that's what needs to happen if they want to see the area develop, which is the stick. They get beaten every 4 years when there's election. Go back and develop your zone. Go back and make it good. They're often beaten with that stick. But I think what you tend to see is the individual successes if I ask you now, I think Anambra is just like the Ogun State of the East. I might be wrong. Littered with billionaires. Every next house there's a billionaire somewhere, but it doesn't reflect in the society. So what they need to do, if I was advising them, is the communal or the collective wealth. That's what they need. I know that when you discuss these things, it still ends up coming back to the Nigeria influence, because as long as they're part of Nigeria, it will be influenced by what Nigeria brings to everyone. Because I was thinking about this, and I remember that only 2 years ago, some friends were telling me, oh, let's go invest in this and this in Nigeria and the rest of it. And it was about £100,000 they were talking about. And I thought to myself, only recently I just sat down and I thought, imagine we had put £100,000 in Nigeria 2 years ago. The exchange rate about 2 years ago was about 980 naira to a pound. So that would have given us at the time 98 million naira, right? So if we had gotten 98 million naira, let's even say you make 10%, 20% profit. If you add the 20% profit of 19.6 million naira to the 98 million naira, that will give you 170 million naira 2 years ago. If you want to take that money out of Nigeria, since I don't live there, and they paid me in naira, which is the problem we seem to be having with foreign investors, because I see that this summit, they had a lot of foreigners and they're asking for FDI, for people to come and invest. If you ask an Oyibo man to come and invest in the East, he's still going to deal in naira and kobo. So the money from 2 years ago, today will be 117 million naira, 98 million naira. Change that back to pounds, is 56,000 pounds today. We went with 100,000 pounds 2 years ago. If they paid us in naira, if we wanted to take our money out in naira, it would be 56,000 pounds. So how can you? That's why I laugh when I see our leaders junketing around the world, or the ones that are asking people to come for this summit. If you're going to pay them back, you have to pay them back in foreign currency, which is going to be a drain on our foreign reserve. So it's quite complicated. Do you understand? So I understand that we can tell the Southeasterners to say, develop your area, bring in investment. If that's going to happen, it would have to be the sons and daughters of the soil who are not looking to repatriate that money out of the East that would develop that area. And I feel like if they genuinely invest in that zone, I mean, we've seen what the Igbos are capable of, just like most Nigerians. That, the ingenuity, these are smart people. I saw some of the things people presented at this summit. Young men, different things they did. This one uses solar, this one uses water. You've seen Nigeria design so many things. So I think what we need to focus on is to get Igbo men and women with all the billions to invest their money in their motherland, and don't have the mindset of taking the money back to the Western world. If you're happy to leave the money there, you can develop the zone. You will see more people go there. Even I've bought my Ishiagu ready for whenever I need to visit the East. Anybody would go and invest where they would get return. So all these summits are good, but like Dr. Damiji said, from draft to implementation, we need to see it happen. I mean, it's shameful that there was no government presence. If your people are saying, we want to invest back home, they need to see that the government are willing to meet them halfway. Or could it be that the East is a microcosm of Nigeria, where, similar to Nigeria, when the colonialists were living, they almost handed Nigeria to the worst of us to lead the best of us? Is it a case that Nigeria as an entity is influencing those who are leading the East in terms of the political leaders, choosing the worst of them to lead them, just to ensure that that place is perpetually kept poor? Because I can't seem to understand why such a summit would happen in the East and you wouldn't have massive government presence. I mean, look at what happened in Abia, or is it Abia? Yeah, where they did the power plant. Why can't they recreate that across the East, so that virtually every part of the East will be, will be powered? You cannot have industrialization without electricity. Start with that. And you would see even the people from the Southwest, even people from the North would come and invest, because people are looking to make money. So the Igbos have money, but I think they need to focus back home. All the money they are sinking in Lagos and all these places, and every 6 weeks you get somebody, they are demolishing our houses, but they'll still keep investing in Lagos. There's a reason for that. The leaders of the Southwest are intentional about developing that area, which I think the Igbos need to replicate and develop the area. Nobody's going to come and develop it for you. Just like we talk about Nigeria, nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save the East. The Easterners, the Rudolph Okonkos of this world, need to take their billions home and go and sink it in the East. When that is done, then you can get me from my little Remo in Ogun State to come and say, there's an opportunity, let's invest there as well. So I think the summit I'm not trying to knock it. It's a good initiative, but I think we're having too many summits. There was one held in, was it Anambra? Not too long ago. So how many of these summits are we going to have? How much did this current summit cost? How much is it? So you need to see returns, and people need to understand that it's not going to be a quick turnaround. It's not something that you invest today and you're looking to take out money next year. This is something you do for your generations yet unborn. 3, 4, 5, 6 generations might be the one to start, reaping the benefit of it. And when you do that, then you have a stronger pedestal to stand on and negotiate with Nigeria.
Okay.
And say this is what we want, this is what we want. But when home is not developed, it's very difficult for them to take you serious. They won't take you serious. So you develop home. And I think one of the mistakes that happened in the East, I might be wrong, you can say I'm politically naive, is the fact that there are like 4 different parties or 3 different parties in the East. As governors, you have LP, you have APC, you have PDP. I think if ABGA was developed into that strong party, all the 5 states were ABGA parties, or ABGA governors, then you have a solid front to go and negotiate in Abuja. I know it's not the ideal. You shouldn't have to negotiate, as sons to go to your father, so to speak, to say let's start negotiating. It should be free, and fair. But when you know that the system is rigged against you, or you believe it is rigged against you, that is when you want to form a united front and say the 5 states of the East are coming to Abuja to negotiate this. This is what we can offer. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. This summit is a good start, but there's a lot more work to be done.
All right. Thanks very much, Sho, for a very elaborate take on this matter. But one thing that strikes me is that we have people like Rudolph Okonkwo who can afford $1 billion. Please, Rudolph, if you are listening to us, Mr. Rudolph Okonkwo, if you are listening to us, please do well to take that money back to the southeast of Nigeria and dump it there so that it can help in recreating the economic miracle of the early 1960s. Now, let me bring you into the conversation, Flagship. Flagship, you are a business entrepreneur. And I want you to factor in the fact that people of the Southeast are acclaimed to be very resilient, very creative. And now, recently, just about 6 weeks ago, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, assented to the bill that created the Southeast Development Commission. Now, how do you think that commission can work in synergy with the government and the people of the Southeast to recreate that economic miracle? As a business entrepreneur, can you lay out a plan briefly, that could help herald, or blossom that miracle? I keep talking about that miracle. How do we recreate it? How do we reinvent it at this particular point in time?
Thank you, Mr. Chukwuma. So here is what it is. I was in Dubai 2 months ago, to be precise, and during that short visit, I had a moment to sit down and speak with one of the locals in Dubai, and my question was, between 1983 and now, what happened? And how did you guys transform what seemed to be a desert land to the paradise of the world today, most toured country or city in the world today? And the one thing he told me is they created an enabling environment. Dubai was turned around by one man, and he opened it up. But the first thing he did was to create an enabling environment, provide the infrastructures that will be needed. But the biggest part of it, which was a good take home for me in the conversation, was they had a plan. There was a plan, a foreseeable plan with a time frame on it, expected delivery dates. On the business standpoint, if you come to me, or if I go to a bank and say, I need $10 million. I have this business idea. The first thing that I will ask you is, what is your plan? Show it to me. How do you anticipate making this a reality? It's not just enough to come and say you need X amount of dollars to get this business going. How are you going to implement it? Where are you going to start from? And how do you intend to manage it after you get it off the ground running? It is not enough to get it's easy, to be honest. It's very easy to start a business, but being able to manage it and sustain it over time, that's where the work is. And that's why it's very hard to invest in startup businesses or startup companies here in the US. Most banks even will not get involved in giving you money to start up your business if you have not started it and achieved some milestone, which has to have some very productive yield that they look at before they can invest their money to get you going beyond where you are. In the Southeast, we all know that the people from the Eastern extraction run commerce in Nigeria and most parts of Africa. That we give to them. And they seem to thrive outside of their own land. The only thing they do is they come back home to show what they have achieved over the years. And the way they show that is either to build a huge mansion somewhere and buy a Rolls Royce or one of the big cars and park it there. And that car seldom may never even be driven out of that home. But you find out that the infrastructures are not there, the roads, electricity, water, the basic things that they need to get any business going. It's not there. Yeah, I agree that the government has to be involved, but the point is, if the government is not interested or is not showing any willingness to support what you have, what then do you do? Do you sit and just keep crying and waiting until the governors get involved in your agenda or the federal government gets involved? By the time you put 2 or 3 of the innocents, the Alan Oyemas and the rest of them together, that $1 billion can be achieved in a blink of an eye. But the point is, there are no infrastructures. There is no plan. Go to Anambra State. The governor is talking of making the state the Dubai of Africa. Where is the plan? Show it to me. How is it going to run? When you start, when you get to the middle and the end and beyond, how do you hope to sustain it? It's not there. So these summits will keep happening. They have them. They come up with great ideas, and geniuses come up and present what they have, but there are no take-homes. And when they meet the next time, there is no account given. We met last time, we talked about XYZ. What have we achieved so far? Where are we in the plan? By the time you put all this together, the money will be nothing. Asking for money before the plan is like killing the idea automatically. You have to come up with the plan, present it, and make sure it makes sense before any meaningful or good investor will come to invest in your plan or your business. So here's what I say to the people in the Southeast. They have the energy, they have the ingenuity, they have everything it takes to get the business going, but there is no plan. Put the infrastructures on the ground, get a plan working, and you will see investors from nowhere. You may not even need to call them. I mean, if there's light in the entire eastern part of Nigeria, there are good roads. You don't need to go anywhere to call anybody. They are looking at you, and they scout for these places where they can do business. And if they find out that you have all of this put together, they come with their money and they invest and build the place. So those big Eastern investors that are outside of the East in Nigeria that are doing well in Lagos, in Ghana, Gambia, name them, what is making them not come back home to replicate what they are successful in these countries or states where they are? It's because the infrastructures are not there. And lastly, another thing that I think really hunts them down is patronage. When they have these goods and services that they have and can render at home, the question goes back to one thing we talked about last week. When you see a Nigerian business and a foreign business door to door, providing the same services, who do you go to as a Nigerian? People tend to gravitate to the foreign guy that provides the same service. So patronage is one big issue that beguiles Southeastern investors if they put that business in their own land and intend to grow it from there. The guy that manufactures the vehicles there is a big example.
All right, Flagship.
Right now, you would think that the government would patronize him and use his product rather than going to Japan to get cars.
Flagship, thanks very much for a very profound take. This way we'll have to anchor this conversation as we get into the second topic of discussion, which is about how Ghanaian election will impact 2027 general election in Nigeria. Now, the special advisor to President Tinubu on public communication, Daniel Bwala, has dismissed concerns that the outcome of the recent Ghanaian presidential election, where the ruling party, MPP, was displaced by the opposition NDC of John Mahama, could impact President Bola Tinubu's chances of re-election in 2027. Now, Bwala emphasized that the uniqueness of each country's circumstances are different and that the president remains confident in his ability to win re-election. Bwala further pointed out that the president's focus on addressing everyday concerns of Nigerians, such as hunger and agricultural development, is paying off and has earned him commendations from across the country. Bwala's comments came after rumors emerged of a coalition against Tinubu's re-election in 2027. However, he dismissed these rumors, saying that the time for politicking is not yet and that the administration will be ready for everyone when the time comes. I still have with me Dr. Damages, KJ, Show, and Flagship. Gentlemen, thanks for staying with us. Now, let me come to you straight, KJ. Ghanaian elections and 2027 elections. And you heard what the presidential spokesperson, Daniel Bwala, said. He said there is no cause for alarm. There is nothing to worry. The president is already addressing the major concerns of Nigerians. If you talk about hunger, if you talk about agricultural products and all of that, the president is on top of his job. So the economic decline that caused the failure of the NPP in Ghana is not going to happen in Nigeria because the president is apparently doing very well. Please, what's your reaction to Daniel Bwala's take on this matter?
Daniel Bwala again. Anyway, since that's the topic we want to discuss, I will liken Daniel Bwala. In fact, I want to agree with him. I agree with him totally because if Daniel Bwala can be speaking for Tinubu at this point, who knows what will happen? Maybe by 2027, me too, I'll be speaking for Tinubu. You don't know. I mean, these guys have magic wine. They just, spin it, and you begin to speak on their, you begin to, exalt them to a high heavens. Even though just yesterday you are saying certain things that are unprintable, about the same issue. Yeah, he's correct. I tried to interrogate his statement, and I discovered that the man is 100% correct. Because 2027, Mahmoud Yakubu is going to still be there. Wike is going to still be there. Ganduje will still be there. So what is going to change? You can already see that in FCT, the man, the area boy who is now in charge, have said he doesn't even recognize the FCT senator representing the people of FCT. He doesn't recognize her. She is an elected official. You are not, but you don't recognize her. So you're already setting the stage to make sure that what happens in River State, you replicate in FCT, which we know. In fact, we discussed that on Dr. Dambaji's show when he was first appointed. We said these things are going to play out.
KJ, I want you to hold on to your line of thought. Do you think that the president is clearly addressing the concerns of Nigerians when it comes to hunger, insecurity, and the development of agriculture?
Yes.
When you say that you agree with Daniel Bwala?
Yes, I think so. The president is addressing it because the last time we tried to trace him, he was in the last country he was in was where? He was still trying to see how he can get food to Nigerians. So now we are getting food for Nigerians and buying, renovating houses and buying planes and all that. The truth remains, my brother, if we don't change the situation, the trajectory where we are going, nothing will change. Nobody picks change on the road. Nobody. No country comes to change by just following the same track. He's saying these things, and I repeat myself, just in case I was being, misunderstood, because I've been a bit funny there. The truth is, Daniel Buhala is saying the truth. The factors that brought Tinubu in are still going to be there by 2027. Only a madman that will go to contest against Tinubu with these factors. There's not going to be any change. If you thought there was going to be change, look at what is going on in the assembly, in the whole of the nation, in each state. People, every election gets to be worse. So he's confident that the people of Nigeria can never replicate what happened in Ghana, because it will not happen. The factors are in their control. Before it was the beavers. Now it was the glitch in the system. Now the beavers they have also discovered that there's a way you can even affect that one and change it to what you want. So who is going to check us? Have anybody gone to prison have anybody explained to Nigerian people what the glitches means? Has Mahmoud Yakub been sacked? If you are the one listening to us now and you gave somebody your company and give the person 300 billion, and the person comes back at the end of the year and didn't give you what you need, will the person still be sitting on that seat of your company as a managing director? Those are questions we ask. So if those questions are still the way it is, how then do we expect a different result? The man is going to just continuously to declare. In fact, last time it was 4 a.m. This time they may make it a little bit more, maybe 3 a.m. this time, and that's what's going to happen. I'm sorry. He's telling Nigerians the blanket truth, as we say in Nigeria. If you like, you take it. You don't like, don't take it. But those guys he's going to make sure that people who will deliver the goods will be left in the office.
All right. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, KJ. I thought we had only one satirist on the show, but now I have another person too. I'm even confused. Who is teaching who? Are you the one teaching Dr. Damages, or is it Dr. Damages that is teaching you? And are you people willing to teach me? Anyway, Dr. Damages, let's bring you into this conversation at this moment. Now, when Ghana elections went free and fair, credible, and the loser rather, even congratulated the winner ahead of the announcement by the electoral body, we had our own INEC chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, say, look, Ghana did so well because they copied from Nigeria. And just 2 or 3 days ago, the same Mahmoud Yakubu came out to tell us that he has discovered 142 ways that he can use to make Nigerian elections credible. Are you able to help us unravel that contradiction, if you see any, in those two statements coming from the election umpire? Dr. Damages, you might need to unmute yourself.
Chukuma, thank you so much. I initially thought I would retire this year because there are so many comedians in the Nigerian scene. I'm not needed. Mahmoud is one of them, and Wike is another one. The entertainment is too much. I can't compete with these people. They are wonderful comedians. So look at it this way. I think it's embarrassing that Mahmoud actually went there to Ghana to learn how elections should be conducted. And things that small countries like Ghana and Kenya, they've been doing for years. We are yet to get to that point where people in rural areas, people anywhere in the world can see the results as people are voting and they are being counted. We can do that. Something very simple. And it should be a shame for us, but it's not, because people laugh. I played the video of Mahmoud talking, and people were just angry that I even played that. Instead of them to be angry that someone like that is still in place in that position after the failure of what happened in 2023. So part of the blame is really, I don't blame Tinubu and his people. They got what they wanted from Mahmoud, and they don't have any need to change him. It's the opposition that should know that going into another election with these characters, you are not going to get a different result. Incidentally, Showore was in my class last week, and he was asked, are you going to run again for president? Students asked him. And He said he would not answer that on air. He couldn't say that he would run again when all he was telling them was that, look, the election process in Nigeria is terrible and it has not been reformed. And if it's not reformed, you can't run again. Otherwise, you get the same result. That's the something that happened to Peter Obi at Yale University. He was asked that question, are you going to run again? He didn't say he will run again. You can't say you will run again when nothing has changed. You run again if something has changed. Otherwise, you get the same result. You're wasting your time. You're wasting people's time. People are not ready to come out anymore and invest, put in their money and their resources to support candidates, even if when the process is not being reformed. So it's a sad thing that more than, I think, 6 elections in a row, Ghana has been able to produce credible elections. The same thing with Kenya. And Nigeria cannot say that since 1993 they've been able to. Even the 1993 one didn't end up the way it should. So it's a sad thing. I don't know what to do and what to tell our people. The Tinubu team, they're doing what they have to do, which is to stay. You're winning, and if you're winning in a game 10-0, why do you have to? You delay the ball, you keep playing around at your own end. People who follow soccer know what they do when you're winning. They're winning and they don't care.
All right, Dr. Damages, it's quite scary. I mean, when people that are highly placed people like you that are highly regarded are confused and you don't know what to do. Oh, I don't know what the average Nigerian will do. Now, let's bring in a Flagship into this conversation. Flagship, please, how do you react to Daniel Bwala's comment that, look, 2027 is assured, no need to worry. We did Gidigbam, like we say it in our local parlance. We did Kampi, we did Gidigbam. How do you react to that?
Exactly, he's right. It's true. The results have been determined already. So there's nothing in, but I mean, he just spoke exactly what has already happened. It's just that we're not there yet. So come 2027, if you like, go reform the Electoral Act. If you like, change the beavers. If you like, get the best technology known to man. As a matter of fact, if you like, go and get AI technology developed to do this thing for Nigeria. Come what may, even if the heavens come down, Tinubu is still going to come there. Even if God decides to call Tinubu back, some way, somehow, he will come back and he will get back to that office in 2027. That's all they have told you. Listen, Thursday, I listened to Mahmoud make a comment, and which was quite interesting to me. And I think people are missing it. And surprisingly, the journalist that was talking to him missed it. Mahmoud said that, yes, Ghana has concluded their elections. They learned from us. However, he's figured out 142 ways or whatever it is to make Nigerian election better in 2027. He's only told you that he's figured out 100 plus ways to make Tinubu come back, no matter what it is. Even if the 250 million people in Nigeria vote for the opposition. And surprisingly, he made this comment that, in 2027 election, there's a new technology that he has found that will be applied. And that will tend to improve using PVCs in the voting process. And the two reasons he gave is it's going to help in early voting. Catch that one. Early voting in 2027. They want to start that. And then number two, it also would be used to give a chance to Nigerians in diaspora to be a part of the election. That 2 point alone tells me that, number one, we're going to lose some hundreds of billions of naira in getting that technology if they decide to go to that route. And then number two, that technology will only be known and operable by then. And number three, the result from that technology, Nigerians will not know how it works or how they got it. Simply put, it's another abracadabra in the making that is coming. So these guys have ways to figure this thing out. Whether Ghana did it right, came with nobody stealing ballot box, running away with it, or soldiers or Ghanaian police showing up in the polling stations and so on, it means nothing, absolutely nothing to them. As a matter of fact, Mahmoud went to Ghana, and this is his comment. Is that all you got? Is this how you guys do it? You've not learned anything and you don't know what is in play. Tinubu is coming back in 2027. Let's have that settled, even if everybody in Nigeria votes. However, there is one chance that that may not happen. And that one chance is if the people decide to get up and fight against this. They don't need no politician to do it. They don't need anybody to do it because everybody is a yes, sir, and yes, Oga to Tinubu as it is right now. So even if it is done right, electoral-wise, reform the Electoral Act, change everything, Tinubu will still come back. In my opinion, and I'll end with this, in my opinion, I do not think that reforming the Electoral Act is the solution to the problem. The point is, we just have the wrong set of guys that are there right now. And they are ready to grab and make it whatever they want to make it, as long as the people are unable to challenge them. So 2027, T-Pain is coming back.
Talked about the people coming out to fight. The people who came out in 2023 to fight. What happened? The politicians still had their way. Here in Lagos, people had bloodied noses, blind eyes. People were blinded because they were trying to exercise their franchise. Well, the politicians stopped them. So what else can we do as a people to ensure that, this is wrong, free, and fair?
They did, actually. They came out. And even when the results turned out to be not what they voted for, and they were ready to go fight for it, the man that they all galvanized behind, Peter Obi, told them to calm down and relax, that he believed in the judicial system, which is what Dele Faratimi has shown to us now, that has been corrupt for years. And I wonder how Peter thought that the Nigerian judicial system was going to serve him justice after what was done in 23. So yes, the people did fight, but I'm saying this time, they don't have to listen to anybody. They can do what is done in Syria, they can do what is done in Bangladesh, and many other nations who took matters and pushed out the wrong guys and recaused the track of their nation. So it's up at this point.
All right, thanks very much, Flagship. It's interesting to know that one of the recommendations, that Mahmoud Yakubu is trying to put out is that good people, diasporans like you, Dr. Damaji, Shu, and KJ can also cast their vote and help us determine who rules us here in Nigeria. Now, sure, let me bring you in at this moment. In the Ghana elections, there is something they call break the eighth. That is, break the eighth. After 8 years, there must be a change of government. I think it has happened this is the third time it is happening. It has also happened in Nigeria, but it was after 16 years, the PDP was displaced by the APC. Now, considering what has happened in Ghana, the election was fought and lost on the table of economic decline. And we more like are experiencing the same kind of economic decline here in Nigeria. If you look at what is happening, is there a possibility that an opposition party, either singly or in coalition, can unseat the ruling APC? I want you to consider the fact that Peter Obi is discussing with Atiku Abubakar. He's having discussions with Rabi Ukwakwan. So he's talking to Bukola Saraki. He's talking to Nasir El-Rufai and all of that. They seem to be coming together. They are regrouping ahead of 2027. Is there a possibility that break the eighth, break that syndrome can happen in Nigeria?
Thank you for that question, Chukuma. So, in normal circumstances, it is possible. Elections are meant to be referendums for the government in power. So people can go to the polls and say, based on the way you've treated us the last 4 years or 8 years, we're going to vote for you or against you. But Daniel Bwala said what he said because he knows something that most of us know, but he knows more than we do. So this coalition you talk about, yes, there are discussions going on and the rest of it, but you can be sure that if you know about this coalition, then the APC, they know more about it than you do. Remember, Wike is still a part of the PDP, so there are certain meetings he can attend as a PDP bigwig. He's a big shot in the PDP, so APC would know what's going on. They can see this from a billion miles away. So their strategy will be different to their strategy in 2023. So the work is clearly cut out for the opposition. Yes, of course, they will stand a better chance if they do come together, but don't underestimate APC and what they're capable of. Now, to talk quickly on someone like Daniel Bwala, there's a saying that the greedy is always in want. Daniel Bwala needs to pay bills. He doesn't live in Nigeria full time. He has bills to pay. So people like that would always go to where the money is, regardless. You can say, when he was pressed on the things he had said in the past, he said, I was saying it as an opposition. He said, no, I'm back in the fold. I just don't take anything I said serious. It was just political talk. And for Mahmoud Yakub going to Ghana and saying that he's learnt whatever he's learnt, there's another famous saying that, fool me once, shame on you. Because you deceived me, I don't know you. But fool me twice, shame on me.
All right.
I'm familiar with your game. You fooled me once. If you're able to fool me twice, then shame on me. I've not learned anything from the previous encounter. So someone like Mahmoud Yakub can tell you he's gone to Ghana, he's learned whatever. My favorite saying of all time is, you cannot wake somebody pretending to be asleep. It's not like they don't know what to do. It's not like they can run free and fair election, but they've chosen not to in most cases. Our elections are determined by the courts, and I've said it many times. I think we should stop wasting money on elections. Let's just go to the court and let the judges and the lawyers make money and decide who is going to be our president and our governors. Everything is decided. To the point that only yesterday that the appeal court said River State money should be released to them because some people decided that it was sensible to go to the Federal High Court to get an injunction to stop River State money going to them. Since when did the Federal High Court have jurisdiction over state allocation? It's nothing to do with them. The state high court could have said, don't release money to them. It's an internal affair, but everything we do in Nigeria is determined by lawyers and judges and in courtrooms. So someone like Mahmoud Yakub cannot fool me twice. He fooled me once in 2023 to an extent, but he can't fool me in 2027 because that would be, shame on me. In terms of Ghana election, just to break it down for maybe one or two people that might not understand what actually took place in Ghana, I'm going to replace the characters with Nigerians. So what's just happened in Ghana is, remember, Goodluck Jonathan is left office a few years ago. Imagine if he's come back as the president, and during the election, he's not running against Tinubu. Let's say the year is 2031. So he's not running against Tinubu, who's done his 8 years, 2 times, and is going. But Tinubu and APC have presented Shetima, the VP, because that's what happened in Ghana. Akufo-Addo's deputy is the one that ran against, the former president. So it's like Shetima running against Jonathan in 2021, and Jonathan wins the election. Okay. So when people like Bwala tells you it's not going to happen, you can see why. Do you think that Jonathan would win against a Shetima? Not because it's not better or it's not qualified, but you see that happening in Nigeria with the current structure. I don't think so.
All right, sure. I think that's $1 million question. That's $1 million question, which will be answered by 2027. Now, this show has been quite interactive. I would like for us to take some of the comments, from our viewers, so that after these comments, we can take our concluding talks, and now you react with your concluding thoughts, and now we wrap up the show. Now, from John. John says, Ekberima. Anyway, I don't know what that means. Should be in jail. He is not a freedom fighter. He is the Prime Minister of Nelly of Fuebus. Oh, well, John, that's we should be circumspect what to put out in public. Now, according to Steve Austin, sir, you didn't listen to the speech he gave in the USA recently. Steve Austin continues, and there are not a lot of Nigerians in dull wit, sir. Okay, the more you interrogate, your ideology changes, which is what happened to Madam Kemi. Okay, the more you integrate, your ideology changes, which is what happened to Madam Kemi. Now, earlier, Kemi was saying the truth. Those that don't like what she's saying, then the leadership and politicians should change their corrupt ways. And Sho reacted, Steve, West Dulwich has about 17% black people. UK average is about 4%. Dulwich as a whole might have less than 17%, but is still higher than national average. Okay, according to Elliot Ono, I'm a Nigerian. I'm Nigerian born and left 49 years ago. There's no way I am going to sugarcoat what's going on in Nigeria. Nigeria is massively, okay, that's according to you. Now, according to Umaju Ogu P, all hail the United States of, oh well, that's according to you. Now, whenever someone says regional system, that's according to 2 Niger, they forget the South-South lost out on it. Second Niger, and it failed quickly. According to Second Niger, again, the same system we have now is fine and quite powerful in controlling the affairs that matter to people. He continues, even with our deliberate policy, the South-South by default will be behind the Southwest. Look at most nations, coastal states dominate. Now, the Southwest has advantages that is almost impossible for any region to surmount. That's coming from 2 Niger. And it says that the Southwest has access to sea and bordering nation. The Southwest has a former major capital of Nigeria. Oh well, Southwest are linguistically and culturally more homogeneous with the great mix in Lagos that creates dynamics that is hard to replicate in any other region. And according to Chok, okay, all right, we get it, we'll do that. So we should restream because it's impossible to listen. We'll find a way around that. Thanks very much. Finally, according to 2 Niger, the Southwest has never had setback of the Civil War. Okay, think when some talk about marginalized and other Nigerians are confounded, that is why, because there is that idea that Southeast is marginalized, but empirically, the evidence is absent. And second, 2 Niger continues, what is real is that Nigeria as a whole is suffering, including those in the Southwest. The forces responsible for it affect all regions. Empirically, the North is less developed and poorer than the South. All in our politics, AMP. Now, this is an obedient echo chamber. Same question, same response, same argument. Oh, well, that's according to you. All in our politics. 2 Niger says, for the Southeast to rival or even surpass anything in the Southwest, the Southeast needs spectacular statesmen that can cooperate with South-South. If that is done, sky is the limit. Hamilton Luma says, how will you have only one APGA in the Southeast and then defection is the order of the day? Oh, well, according to Show, if the majority is APGA, not many will like to defect. Understanding power is the first step in being a public affairs analyst. If you don't have power, everything you have is given to you. That's Southeast in a nutshell. Oh, well, quite a lot to talk about here. And, all right, gentlemen, we've taken some of the comments. Quite interactive. Let's have your concluding thoughts so that we can wrap up the show. Dr. Damages, I'm coming to you right away. Let's have your concluding thoughts and any reactions you have on the comments or what co-panelists said. Quick one, sir. Dr. Damages, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. You heard me, right?
Yeah, I said thank you so much. Really interesting conversation. Let me start by saying that Show just got a Siago this year or last year, but I've been wearing a Shebi for more than 20 years. So since my wedding days. So Show, you have a long way to go before you become a member. Now, for those who are talking about Jonathan, Shaw also talked about Jonathan. His name was mentioned recently, posters everywhere for 2027. So you might actually have what you are looking for. Let me remind people that what happened in Ghana was just exactly what happened in America. A sitting vice president lost to a former president. You can't think of something like that in Nigeria. It's not going to happen. And this is what I will say about the investment in the Southeast and what will transform the area. If the government of Nigeria will make Enugu an international airport in real sense of it, make Enugu an international airport, that will be transformational. If they will open up a seaport down in the south or southeast, serious seaport, real seaport, where people in Onitsha do not have to import their goods through Lagos, that will be transformational. When these things are not happening, if I have a business in Onitsha, for instance, and I have a partner coming to see me from abroad, they have to first land in Abuja or Lagos before they come. If I have to bring goods, I have to come through Lagos to bring it to the Southeast. So these are things that must be done. It's not in the hands of people who are having strategic meeting out there in Enugu or somewhere to make that happen. It's very important. I'm not even talking about what the government will do within the Southeast, but to make it easy for people to be able to run their businesses. So that's all I have to say. And I just want to also point out that Trump, we are going to hear from Trump. Forget what he's saying now. He says different things in different interviews. When he gets in there, that's when we begin to say, this is the real Trump that we voted. And we may end up at the end of the year, next year, know whether Time Magazine, their call of him as the man of the year is a good thing or a bad thing.
All right, thanks very much, Dr. Damages. Now, Flagship, can we have your concluding thoughts? Quick one, 1 minute at the max. Hello, Flagship, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear
me? All right,
me?
we have quick talks, your concluding thoughts.
Oh, well, again, thank you so much for having me today. It's a good conversation so far. As I always say to everyone, be the change that you want to see in your neighbor. When we start from there, then we stand a chance of having a better tomorrow and future. Thank you.
All right, Flagship. All right.
Did you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. All right, thanks very much. Now, KJ, can we have your concluding thoughts? Quick one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Chukuma. Just like Dr. Rudolph have said, if they really want to, there are policies that are preventing the Southeast from moving. And so, if I would even go further to say, if they really want the Southeast to South to progress, they should all equally move the companies, the oil companies that are now domiciled in Lagos, to those regions where they tap the oil from. Their companies, their headquarters should be there. And then we will see whether development will come to those places naturally or not, because those are things that drive people to Lagos. So move the oil companies to the locations where they're mining or extracting their oil from. And then also open up the seaports in the Southeast, make it a viable seaport, and then let us see whether, even that will help Lagos itself to realize, and be more organized than it is now. And for those who are saying, who made all those comments, we appreciate that comment. They should keep making it. That's what enriches the program. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks very much, KJ. Now, sure, let's have your concluding thoughts.
All right. In concluding, I would like to, if I was advising the Nigerian government, I would tell them to stop engaging Mrs. Kemi Badenoch, because the more you talk about her, the more publicity you would give to the whole thing. A lot of British press wasn't talking about her relationship with Nigeria until the VP of Nigeria spoke about her comment. So if I was advising them, I would say let it go. And on the Ghana elections, I was just thinking, if I was Jonathan Goodluck, imagination go don't finish me. Based on the fact that this guy that just came back, Mahama, he was once the VP, then he became the president, then he lost as an incumbent, then he's come back. And you can draw a direct parallel to Goodluck, who was VP, became president, lost as an incumbent, and like Dr. Damaji said, people are touting him as a possible name to come back. And I'm not saying he's good or bad or whatever. I'm just thinking if I was him, imagination would have finished me completely. And also to say that I noticed that we didn't have anyone in the studio with you today. I hope we've not chased Mr. Shegun Shokpit or Mr. Nonsike away, because usually we'll have them to bounce off each other in the studio. We noticed their absence, just to say compliments of the season to them.
Very well, sure. They are still with us, just that they had to be unavoidably absent. And let me comment on your background. I mean, it's already Christmas in your home, and that's quite exciting. Thank you. Oh well, this is the best place. It will be the best place to anchor this show. I've been speaking with Dr. Damages. Dr. Damages is a satirist, a writer, a journalist, and an adjunct professor at the School of Visual Arts, and he joined us from New York City, United States of America. We also had Flagship. Flagship is a clinical research operations lead and business entrepreneur based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States of America. We also had KJ. KJ is involved in media production and is a training expert and joined us from Maryland, United States of America. We also had Sho. Sho is an IT expert, with interest in international politics and development. Gentlemen, thanks very much for being on this show. Now, this show returns same time next week, 3 to 5 p.m. Nigerian time and 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have been your host, Chukwuma Okoro. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. The outside is around. If you have to drink over this weekend, please drink responsibly. Thanks very much, and thanks for being on this show.